Hello, all. Welcome back to Not Just Lessons from Our Animals. I am Emma. I am an animal communicator, healer, and teacher. I am a guide for humans back to their authentic self. I am a messenger for Mama G and a conduit for the divine. And today Okay, couple of things. I've been having a really hard time like recently of finishing having a thought at a time and finishing a thought at a time and having just so many and wanting to, have them all at one time. Okay, so really quickly, I'm going to do a kind of newsletter-y podcast very soon about this in more detail. And today, February 9th, I have opened the container for Explore Animal Communication. So I'm doing another live container of Explore Animal Communication, which is the space in which to explore, right? I use that word very intentionally. Explore your way of communicating and connecting with animals. And uh, I'll just put the link below. If that is something that is interesting, you can explore it there. And also, you can listen to the next kind of quote unquote episode that's going to show up in the feed that I'll talk way more about that whole container and what is entailed in it. And I just wanted to share that. And for anyone who commits to the container by February 15th, you will also receive a bonus. And the intention is to start the first week of March. So again, you can find all the details March 2026. So depending on when you're listening to this. Yeah, so click the link in the show notes if you would like to learn more and or the next episode. And so today, okay, so the other thought I had that I really wanted to say all at once was there were so many things that came through in these New Year animal readings that were mind-blowing for me. That were these concepts and these ideas and these ways of moving and just like all of these different things that if you've listened to a few of my recent podcasts, I don't remember one that I really spoke about it in was, but where I talk about how the a lot of these things aren't necessarily like at least for me, like groundbreaking. And at the same time, they're not groundbreaking, like once you hear them, you're like, oh, that makes so much sense. But there's not one part of me that would have gotten there on my own without someone else saying it or without someone else bringing it up or without someone else, um, you know, like seeding that idea or seeding that revelation or seeding that concept within my being. So whether that be an entity or an animal or my own higher self or whatever, it's just there's so many of these, which is why I love communicating with animals so much because they teach us so many things, right? They teach us these internal lessons that we go through, and they teach us again, these can all be internal lessons too, and like individual to the person. And there are these like larger collective messages that can emerge through them also that again are like, oh my gosh, what? Like, I don't know that I'll forget this. Probably not. But I remember having a conversation, and I am 99% sure it was with a pig named Moto, and he was saying how important it is that after a reading, we go to our animal and acknowledge, hey, I heard you. Hey, I received what you sent. I may not be able to give you a response to things right now, and I just want you to know, like, I heard you. I received what you had to share. And that was another mind-blowing thing of like, well, yeah, that makes sense, of course, right? Like if you're having a conversation with somebody, if you're not acknowledging that you're having this conversation with them, then they're kind of like, wait, did you hear what I said? Are you listening? And we just assume that our animals know, but how would they know if we don't tell them, right? And it depends, right, on the animal. Because if it's a dog that's like next to you as you're reading it, they can likely sense that it's happening. But if it's a horse, that is miles away or not next to you, whether you are receiving a reading that is in kind of the way that I do it, which is not through Zoom or on a phone call, like it's not live in person kind of situation. That even if it is that, but your animal is not there in the moment too, like how would they know? How would they know? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So anyway, highly recommend that episode. uh I'll link it in the show notes. Or, I say it that way because my full intention is to link it in the show notes, and we will find out if that is remembered by the time I do this. So, okay, today, all of that to say, this concept, this idea, this revelation came through in a New Year animal reading from a dog in a family that has multiple animals, and also within a family that just recently had a big move. So, and I share all of that because it just gives some context that is helpful. So I'm just gonna read it and we're just gonna see what happens and where we go with it. And it's still, I'm like, oh, like that makes sense. And yet I never I never would have gotten there. Okay, so I said, hello, how are you? And she said, I'm doing pretty well. We have had our hands full here for most of the past year. Like I said, big moves. There has been something going on almost all the time, and that has taken its own toll on all of us. For a long time, we knew something was going on. We just didn't know what was going on. And that is fair because the people didn't know, their family didn't know what was going on for some time too. I think we are all still finding our footing right now. We are all still working on regulating our own nervous systems, let alone the collective one within our family. If you're not watching this, mind blown. I think it is going to be a few more months before anything is truly solidified, balanced out. So first, I just like want to stop for a second because I mean, my next is like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was like a thing, and we'll get into that. But I just like I want to make it very clear that I'm talking about a collective nervous system. Our families, so we right, there's so much talk out there about our nervous system, regulating our nervous system, like calming our nervous system. Our nervous system's activated. How do we calm it down? Like I talk about it, like there's a million people who talk about it, right? It's like the thing. And we're usually talking about it on this individual level, which is very important because an individual level also impacts the collective level, right? And yet, do we ever think about or know or acknowledge or understand that there's a collective nervous system at play within our family? Right? So whether your family is all humans or humans and animals, or I guess I don't know what else would be comprised of additional beings, and spirits can be part of it too. And they don't necessarily have a nervous system though. So, okay, humans and or animals, let's go there. That there there's a collective nervous system that we may not be and likely are not because again, how would you know if you didn't know kind of thing, right? Like nervous system. And how do we go about, and I don't even remember because I didn't read this. This is just like a little side note. I was having a talk with a coach that I'm working with right now, and I was saying how I don't proofread. I've never proofread. I mean, I do. I mean, I guess I have. It's not an innate skill of mine or desire or want or need or anything. Like teachers all through my schooling was always Emma needs to proofread. And Emma said, maybe she needs to, but she won't. But she won't. It's just, I don't know if it's the Aries side of me or what, but I'm like, well, I've already written it and it's done. So can we just like move forward? I don't need to spend more time on that. And so I say all that to say, I haven't read this before we're doing this because that's just not how I do things. Okay, so let's read it and see what else she has to share because again, right? Like collective nervous system. So I said, oh, I hadn't thought of a collective family having their own nervous system as well as the individual nervous system. And she says, well, duh. It is why you can feel one way on your own and a whole other way when you are amidst your family, friends, partner, etc. You have many, many, many collective nervous systems in your life. And if you aren't all tending to it, then it will be dysregulated and you will all be negatively affected by it. Okay, let's just keep reading to see what else. So I said, okay, well, this is news to me and so cool. Thank you for sharing that. Is there anything you suggest when tending to the collective nervous system? I'm so happy I asked this question. And she said, it is all very individual to the collective nervous system that you are speaking about. The one with my family is one that is unique because there are so many animal nervous systems along with the humans. So that takes some intricacies to manage and come to harmony with. But it is also sometimes the simplest because once we are able to regulate ourselves, meaning the animals, it is a lot easier for the humans to follow suit. So I would recommend focusing on the animals and their nervous systems first and then move to the humans. We only need a few tweaks here and there to live in an environment that feels secure, safe, and loving, like home. And we can tend to take care. Okay. And we can tend to take it from there and regulate ourselves pretty easily. Okay. So pausing so that we can chat a second. Oh, this is so good. So, right, not all of us, but some of us have more animals than humans within our family system. So, if that is the case, since that's kind of what she's talking about here, it's more about putting your time and attention into focusing on how do we make, because this is what she said, how do we make them feel safe, secure, love, and like they're in a loving, like home, right? Ha- and that is an individual conversation. I do not have this is how you do that because it's going to be very, very dependent on the animal and then how that animal feels in that specific space, that what is going to need to happen in order for those things to like come into fruition. So I simply cannot speak on that because it's just so individual to the animal. But once you're able to do that, then it's giving them the space and time to regulate themselves, trusting that they can regulate themselves, asking if they need any additional support to regulate themselves, right? Because this feels like to me taking a little bit of a uh basically like we're saying all this on top of assuming, okay, that's like the assumption that the animal is healthy otherwise, right? They're receiving a diet that feels really good to their body, right? They're feeling nourished and maybe like they're not living in a very toxic home that's like disrupting their endocrine system, like things like that. And we can't make that assumption because I didn't actually ask her, right? So again, going back to we don't like assuming is unhelpful because like let's just stop assuming and start asking. And I don't know, that's just the feeling I get when I'm reading it. So I'm just going to use that as like maybe a little bit of my animal communication coming through. So, okay, now if we have more humans than animals, then again, this is going to be individual and it's going to feel, it's going to be, who knows? Because again, I can't tell you about your situation without knowing you or hearing about your situation. And if you have more humans than animals, then it's going to be really important for the humans to also at the same time be focusing on themselves and their own nervous system and really drilling down into, okay, what is it that I need, right? Because when I think of my nervous system and I think of it being activated, I think, okay, I'm likely feeling unsafe. And that is why it's being activated. There can be a million reasons for why I'm feeling unsafe. And so it's my job to then tap in. This is why connecting to self, this is why understanding self, this is why like connecting to our intuition and being able to cut through the conditioning and the shoulds and supposed tos is so important because again, there's not a blanket answer for all of these different things. It's so individual that telling you do this, this, and this is it could be helpful. I'm not saying it won't be, but it could be helpful. But it also it's not taking into account your specific situation and needs and scenario and experience and time in your life, right? So, and if you're feeling unsafe, your nervous system's going to be activated. But there can be a million reasons for why, right? You can feel mentally unsafe, you can feel emotionally unsafe, you can feel energetically unsafe, you can feel spiritually unsafe, you can feel physically unsafe, right? You could feel unsafe like financially, you could feel unsafe in your home from a sense of having a home, right? Um, right, there's just like so many ways that we could feel unsafe. So, if I feel like my nervous system is activated because I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling um like my mind is just like can't stop running and thinking and like more so than normal, or I feel really stressed, or I'm not able to sleep very well, or it's like mood behavior has been changing quite a bit without there being a quote unquote reason, right? There's again, and the nervous system's like so hard to really nail down to be like, well, these are the symptoms for why, or for like your nervous system being dysregulated. And it's like it's so many. There's so many. Um, so anyway, if I feel like, okay, my nervous system's activated, that to me says somewhere, somehow I'm feeling unsafe. So let me take some time to connect to myself and ask myself, why and where am I feeling unsafe? And what is it that I need in order to help myself feel more safe, more secure, more stable in whatever that thing is, which might be, walking myself through different situations and scenarios so that I have a better feeling of, okay, if this does happen, then here's the plan, right? I feel secure because there's a plan in place if I should need it. Or, okay, if I'm feeling stressed financially and that's dysregulating me, okay, what is it that I can do, or what do I have at my disposal that could help bring more in or could create new avenues for finances, or whatever the thing is. So, right, if I'm feeling like emotionally, weirdly the word that's coming through is stunted, right? If I'm feeling emotionally subdued, if I feel like I'm not expressing my emotions because it feels unsafe to do so, then it would be asking myself, okay, where and who is it, where can I express my emotions in a safe space where it I feel okay to do so? And do I have anyone in my life currently that I could express emotions to in a very open way that allows for them to leave my body and be out into the world? And this is where having like coaches and mentors and guides and different people, teachers in our life can be so helpful. That yes, if you look at it as like, oh gosh, like I feel like I'm paying to have like a really good friend in my life that I can, be fully myself with. Yeah, that is it sometimes. Like that is what we are paying for. And that can go so far because if we don't have those people currently surrounding us, that can do more, that can slow down your path more than you paying for somebody to be that for you. And I can't tell you how many guides, coaches, teachers, mentors have been that for me because I wasn't in a place where I had people that I could be fully myself, fully expressed, and know that I I I'm not going to get back like comments or advice or feedback or things that are going to be triggering because we've created um, that relationship. So I feel like I've like lost my train of thought. So, right, if it's emotionally, okay, so, right, it's checking in with ourselves. Why do I feel unsafe? What is it that I need in order to feel safe, in order to feel secure, in order to feel stable? And then how can I go about giving that to myself? And I say that a coach or a mentor or a guide might be part of your journey because that just might be the case. And I want to normalize that. I don't want you to see that as like some kind of negative about you or yourself or whatever. Like that's been such a normal part of my own journey. So uh I don't see that as a negative. I see that as only a positive because it also gets to be a space where you get to kind of get to like in a really well, hopefully, right, depending on the person, but hopefully is a really safe space for you to like really express and really explore who you truly are before you bring that out into your life and change it, right? Because you stepping into who you truly are is going to change your life. And I remember I started doing this. So, okay, I know I'm like so off. We're getting back to the collective nervous system, I promise. But I remember consciously. So at the beginning of my personal development journey, I was working at Apple and I had 4 or 5 coaches at one time because this girl goes all in all the time. And I remember learning about myself and then being like, oh, this is so interesting. I have this whole area of my life that I really get to experiment with because I walked into Apple as one person. I walked out of Apple as a completely different person. And me now is also like a fully, completely different person than who I was when I left Apple. And so it just like it gets to be a place for you to get to be yourself. If you don't feel comfortable, safe, secure, stable doing that in your current life situation that is not within some kind of container, right? Okay. Okay. So I don't know if there's anything else I was going to say because I got myself on all sorts of tangents, but okay. So, right. She said, uh, the dog's name's Darby, by the way. She said that depending on, so, okay, she did not say this, but inferring, depending on the makeup of your family. She did say if you have more animals than humans, focus on the animal's individual nervous system first, because their healed nervous system is going to help heal the human's nervous systems on their own. I mean, it's always good for us to take personal responsibility for ourselves as well, and they can speed the process along. So then I said, and then move to the people, right? So she said, focus on the animals. Oh, I'm moving so much energy. Excuse me. Okay. And she said, so I said, and then move to the people. And she said, yes. Then move to the people, and they are trickier. So you will have to understand each one uniquely before moving forward. My family needs to be a bit more honest with themselves in order to find more balance within their own nervous systems. They don't need to be more honest with each other, though they can, but this is a specific focus on not hiding the truth from self. Because how good are we at that, right? Hiding the truth from ourselves. And she continues to say that will shift a lot and help them come back to center time and time again. So this is really interesting, right? So she says it depends on each human. And that, oh, and that for her family, it's about, so she has insight into what is going to be the most supportive, most helpful for her family in healing their nervous systems, even individually. And so this is where we can really bring our animals in, right? If we're like, okay, I know we're all dysregulated. So, and right, if there's a big change in your home, in your life, in your animal's life, it's going to automatically dysregulate your nervous system. That's just how it's meant to be. It's not inherently bad to have a dysregulated nervous system. It is damaging if it continues, right? We're right. It's all about adding stress and then regulating that stress, whether it's to our physical body, it's how we grow, right? And everybody uses this analogy, but it's because it's so good and it's so easy to understand that When you're building muscle, you're tearing the muscle, you're creating stress, but then it heals, right? You put it into a state where it's able to heal. You don't keep it in chronic stress. You're not working out always. You work out for a little bit of time and then you let your body rest for the rest of the time. And then you work out a little bit and then you let your body stress, or you let your body rest. And so that's the same thing here, right? We allow ourselves to be in situations that dysregulate us so that we can then build up a tolerance in a really healthy way that allows us to grow, expand, become the people we're meant to be. But we can't become the people we're meant to be if we keep ourselves in chronic stress and chronic dysregulation, and or we don't allow ourselves to even expand into any kind of dysregulation because we just keep ourselves small. So I don't want any of this conversation to be like, oh gosh, like this sounds negative. Like we don't want to have to do this. And it's, we're doing it anyway. This is already happening, right? Especially with the state of the United States. And just everything that's like coming to light and everything that is happening, it is collectively a difficult energy to live in. And I don't know how the United States collective energy feels on a global level. However, your own current living area, whether it's a country, a province, a county, I'm not sure, a province, did I say that already? um Whatever that looks like, wherever you live, whatever that collective energy is going to impact you, and whether negatively or positively, right? And so it's about us coming back and saying, okay, I can get swept up in this, or I can tend to myself. So if the collective energy is making me feel unsafe, then what is it that I need that is going to help me feel safe? And it might be stop like consuming everything that's happening around you. Like stop putting yourself in that energy for long periods of time. It might be focus on what it is that you can control. Focus and look at the things that you can create change in. I just did maybe not just, it was like a week ago. But I did do a post, a reel that sharing Ruby's words. One of my horses name's Ruby. She's maybe my most blunt and direct um, animal. And I was asking her on a day where I was just feeling particularly heavy with everything that was going on and a little bit helpless and just like all of that energy. And she provided a lot. So I will also link that in the show notes if you want to look at the words that she had to share, because they were to me helpful. And also Mama G came through with a message a while ago that was really helpful too, around essentially there being two roles for us to take on, that we're all meant to be one of the two roles. And it's recognizing what role you are meant to be a part of and allow yourself to be a part of that group. And one role is much more to do with the micro of it all, right? So I see the micro being a lot of the people that are doing all of the updates on social media and the protests and the petitions and the things that are like the day-to-day stuff. And then there's more of a macro role, which is more about holding the energy and creating the framework for the future. So it's not about neglect. It's not about either neglecting the other or avoiding the other. It's saying, I see you, whichever role you're in, you look to the other and say, I see you. I understand you're there. I'm a part of what you're doing. And the majority of my time and energy is meant to be in this role because that's what I came here to do. And there's no shame, there's no blame, there's nothing, because you're stepping into the role that you're meant to be stepping into. And what's the most harmonious, balance creating, joyful, loving thing that we can do than step into what we're meant to be stepping into? We're all here for a reason at this time, at this wild time in life. And if we all can step into what we're here to step into, what could that change? How could that shift everything? we can't know unless we do it, you know? All right. So thank you so much to Darby because this was mind blowing to me. Feels really important, especially during all these times of really big upheaval and really big change. And Aries just moving into Neptune and very soon moving into Saturn as well. And so we're in this year of the one in numerology. We're coming up to the end of the wood snake and beginning of the fire horse. And we're at this very revolutionary type of time. And there's going to be a lot more change. There's already been a ton of change. There's going to be a lot more. So I hope this was helpful. Again, if you're interested in explore animal communication, check the show notes for the link and you can learn more about it. And I hope this was helpful in some capacity. And I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, I'm so excited for the container. It feels really, really juicy. All right. I will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.